Yeah, Nihal, do we start?
Just 30 seconds. It's just creating the stream.
Okay.
So we can start now, Vinay.
Thanks. Thanks, Nihal. Welcome, Cathy, and welcome, Prasant, for the session today. Cathy is joining from East Coast, I guess New York. Thanks for.
Ann Arbor. Yeah.
Okay.
Ann Arbor, Michigan.
Okay, Michigan, right. So yeah, thanks for joining this forum and welcome to NASCOM Deep Tech Club meetup. Before we go ahead, I just want to introduce Cathy to the team here, and then I want to do a brief introduction of the NASCOM DTC as well to Cathy and Prashant. So Cathy has 2 decades of marketing experience. She has been instrumental in the growth of Infogain. She has been with Infogain for last 15 plus years now. And she started off with marketing. She has been in marketing. She has also taken care of inside sales, and and she has gone through various stages of the company growth, right? Like from the initial stages all the way to the 5,000 employee company that it is today, and she has been instrumental in its growth. So I'm sure her insights will be very helpful for companies here in this group, and we will be able to leverage her experience today and in the days to come. Prashant has started his tech career in 2004, around that time, and he has been a techie for almost a decade. And before switching gears, he did his MBA from IIMA, and he started as a product marketing guy in Persistent, then went on to Softonics and Infogain. Today he's a general manager in Infogain, and he still derives pleasure from marketing. He has been listening with the analysts, media, industry influencers, and today he's going to throw some light on how marketing is very important for tech companies and how we normally ignore marketing in the early days of the company, right? So that's going to be the focus of his insights today. In fact, as we all know, right, like marketing, one of the main intention is to communicate value and also to reduce the search cost. So basically make discovery easy. So Prashant is going to talk about how discovery can be made easy for investors, lead customers, even talent and advisors, right? So that's going to be the topic today. As to NASCOM, Cathy and Prashant, NASCOM DTC has been mentoring startups for the last 5 years now. There are about 140 DTC companies. This year is the 5th cohort. And there are all sizes of companies, and their deep tech is normally applied to all these, machine learning, deep learning, quantum analytics, and a lot of these. In fact, there are companies which are about 46 companies with bootstrapped or angel funded, and there are about 8 or 9 in the Series A, and some 8 or 9 in the pre-Series A stages. So there are companies of various scale and in various stages of growth. So today we are going to cover some of the questions that we normally come across, like in different stages of these companies. And let us assume for today's session that the founders are predominantly techies, right? And they don't come from marketing as a formal background, though there are some of them. And they're all self-taught on marketing basics. So we would like you to actually go to the basics in today's session. So we all basically spend money on SEOs and different marketing mix. So we just want to go and ask you guys questions on some very basic questions on that. Okay. To start with, so what's the Cathy, to you, like what's the right time, a startup should actually start spending money on marketing, and how much percentage should it be? Okay, and where should they start actually spending money? So, like for example, is it email campaigning, or what kind of as applied to a deep tech company?
Okay, thank you, Vinay. And it's nice to learn about deep tech. This is my first time being with the group, and I'm very excited to be together with you. I have personal interactions with people who are right now in one or another stage of trying to start their own company. Some have already gotten funding. Some are, just, still working towards that. And it's very exciting to watch these companies grow. And so in terms of when to start thinking about marketing, well, given the competitive nature of the tech world today, then the earlier the better. And that may not come naturally for everybody on the phone. I mean, you know, some people have a natural tendency towards thinking about the tech side, and maybe it's sort of a struggle, or it's sort of like a chore almost to try and think about, well, you know, what to do on the marketing side. But yes, I think do it earlier. And if it's not an area of interest for you, get someone else who can do it for you. Get someone even on a contractor basis, someone who can, you know, think marketing and make a marketing roadmap for you, starting really at the very front, which is, you know, why am I here? You know, what am I doing? Why am I here with this company? Because there's no sense being a tech startup if you don't have a product that meets what the market needs. And so, and then also by having marketing at a very early stage, even at the sensing stage, the discovery stage, that's a chance for you to maybe uncover new functionalities that you can add to your product that you weren't thinking of before. I'm just noticing right outside my window here, there's actually a repair truck. It's making some noise. And Prasant just shared a few minutes ago that Cisco is actually starting or has acquired a company that minimizes background noise for when you're on your Zoom call. So, you know, that's a market listening thing that, well, there's a need there that I can fill, and just being aware of what the market is experiencing is a big part of making your success. So no harm starting earlier. How much to spend is also very important. And what I'm seeing in the tech industry, the software product industry, is that marketing is more and more a predominant part of the investment spend. In fact, that function tends to come into a little bit of a leading role in the company. Why? Because there's so much competition. A lot of people on this call are AI companies. Well, there's a lot of AI companies. So understanding your market and how you're differentiated should be in your head, or at least in someone else that you're paying's head, sooner rather than later. And it should help drive how you're investing your money in the other parts of your business.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, so I mean, yeah, thanks. Actually, in terms of say, some of the companies are like, you know, 1 million ARR or 1 to 2 million ARR.
Okay.
So how much, I mean, how much part of that revenue should be really spent on marketing, and how do they go about doing it? Like, for example, you told you can actually take people on contract, or right? So if you can actually say, like, should they concentrate first on SEO and then email campaign? Should those be the kind of approaches, or is it more, as you say, in terms of value discovery, right? And then how do they go about? Yeah.
I mean, if I were at a company that had $1 million in revenues, I mean, if you look in the industry, you might see 10%, 12%. I think that, and even overspending in a situation where you are in a more competitive market. And then also understand that there's a very important step that starts before SEO, which is the marketing strategy. And that, you could say, is an investment that then kind of amortizes over time. And so it may be worth it for you to make a, you know, upfront investment in your marketing strategy, which would include, you know, working with a brand company. So it's not like you have to hire someone who is like a 2 crore a year person or something like that. No, there's companies out there that will take you through these early steps of the evaluating the market, choosing a positioning, and then developing a positioning statement out of that. There's something called a message house, where once you know your positioning, then you or you're working together with your brand company, you have a half-day workshop, and you try and brainstorm out, based on your own knowledge of the customer's experience, you know, the key pain points, and then the answer, and then how your product answers the key pain points. And you do that a couple levels down. This is actually available on the internet, I'm sure, if you just Google message house or foundational messaging. These are things that are important precursors to getting out there with any marketing tactics. First, you really, really need to understand who you are and how you compare to others, and what the value proposition is. And then similarly, in terms of your brand identity. And again, this is something that may not be, you know, it's not that thrilling from a tech side, but it's very important from a marketing side that your brand be distinguished and unique and appealing to your right contact group. So these are some of the early things. You have customer journeys and personas. These are things that you can get done on an outsourced basis if you so choose. I do recommend that you have at least some kind of a marketing coordinator or marketing leader with you, even as a $1 million company. Hire a good marketing person or get someone on a contract basis, from Upwork type places. Have someone regularly with you who can represent that function and have that mindset to help you in every step of what your company is doing.
All right. So, that's a good input. It's not just about hiring engineers, but also about hiring a marketing coordinator, at least to start with, and then get the communication.
Yes. Yes, hiring a marketing leader of some type. And then also when you say it's not just about hiring, but I'd also like to comment that we're seeing in the industry a certain tightening of the labor market for tech employees.
Right.
And so that's the other way to think about marketing is what marketing approaches can I use to hire the right people, to get more and more people willing to come be developers at my company. And so that is, again, it's a mindset type of approach. You use the exact same tools, but in that case, your objective is to get candidates, to get a flow of candidates coming in that you can hire.
Cathy, can you share any of your maybe a story of in your career that you came across in the early stage, which people can actually relate to, like, right, in terms of choosing the marketing areas what were the areas that you chose and how did you go about them?
Well, I guess what I would say is that at Infogain, what I kind of wish that I had done earlier, and which you all have the time to do now, is to invest in marketing tech earlier rather than later. And so marketing technology nowadays for software companies represents maybe 30% of the spend. And so this would be something like getting, even social media software so that you can schedule and review and do reporting on your social media activities. There's many platforms. One is called Hootsuite. And then also getting out there with marketing tech software like Pardot or Eloqua. I was just on a call an hour ago to kind of review the functionality of Eloqua. And so what these allow is for automating the engagement with prospects who come in through your website or through your sales activities.
Right. I mean, there is a very relevant question right here. I think we can address it right away instead of waiting for the Q&A. It's like when you're in a stealth mode or in a POC mode, then does it make sense to spend on marketing? And like, for example, with a new customer or new segment, where it does not have any presence yet? Like, for example, in terms of discovery, would it help in terms of discovering a lead customer or
Yes, so it looks like someone named Rajesh has asked that call. Thanks for the question, Rajesh. And so when you're in stealth mode, then there's still lots to be learned from the market sensing component of the marketing activity, understanding what are the customer needs that your POC might be developing. And then also in terms of, I guess doing research with the, just what I was saying here, certainly getting information on how your POC can be better, and then also doing the planning. So you want to, once you go out of stealth mode, you want to be ramped up as quickly as possible. And so it doesn't hurt to go ahead and start doing, there's a lot of work that's done on a confidential basis with thinking in terms of your market positioning, which again, that positioning can drive your functionality roadmap. Once you do a marketing positioning and then you select axes, that parameters on which you want to be compared to your competitors, then based on that, you may find that there's new functionalities that you had not yet planned for that you want to make build into your product roadmap sooner rather than later. So there's plenty of marketing work that's done on a confidential basis and will help ramp up and speed up the go-to-market once you do go out into the market itself. Also, I mean, you're working with a customer, so your customer will evaluate you based on your own knowledge and your own ability to reflect the effectiveness of that product. So there's plenty that can be learned that will also help you be effective in your opportunity interaction with the new customer. I know actually a lot of software companies tend to start with just one customer where they're making a custom app actually. And then based on that, they get 2 customers and then 3 customers. And this is something that Infogain actually does, is that we help companies go from having 8 different versions of their app, which then have all separate code bases. And instead we help unify that into a singular product with a core base, and then that customizable layer. And so yes, even working with a single customer, it's also good to have that marketing mindset or get some advice from someone who does have that marketing mindset.
Yeah, actually, Kaushik, I'll go to this brand awareness with Prasant, because we have something similar worked out with Prasant. So Prasant, I mean, you have been a techie yourself, right? Like, and we are all techies here. Most of us are techies here. And before I got onto some business role, though I have been a founder all along in Path Partner, I also used to think marketing as fluff, right? But then I have realized that is not really the case. Okay. So what is your take on this? I mean, you have been on both the sides for a decade on both the sides, right? Almost.
Right. Interesting, very interesting. And I'll be candid here. So I'll not take sides. I promise that. Okay, so these two are very different ball game. Like, as you mentioned, that it takes time to really understand what marketing is. I'm not sure if you have heard that trivia. There are two functions in any company that use continuous verb form. Everything else is static. One is engineering and other is marketing. Both use ing form, and there is a reason for it, because both are constantly in flux. But there is a difference when you look at it. Engineering is more restless, and they write a program and they expect an output. But marketing doesn't work that way. It is slow. It takes time. It takes really long time to strategize and position yourself before you can start seeing the result. So you see, the very nature of these two activities are very different. And that is something we need to keep in mind, that if you feel that your work is going to be fruitful and useful for companies 6 months down the lane, probably it is the time to start investing in marketing. Because like I mentioned, it's a slow process. It's not like you compile a program, see the output, make the edit and move on. It's still like those mainframe days, which takes time to compile and give you that small code output. You have to probably wait for a day. That's how it used to be earlier, right? But now it's quite fast. Marketing takes time. So that would be a summary statement if I were to say.
Yeah, I mean, so when you told about marketing strategy, it's taking time, right? So especially when you're working with external factors, like say a media, say we're all like deep tech B2B companies, right? So we want our customers to discover us. Of course, we go in search of customers, but then we want customers to discover us. That's where, and we all have products which are like where there is an evaluation phase. There's usually long cycles, sales cycles involved. Okay, so definitely we all know that media. We all want media coverage. We want analysts to feature us in their reports, and we want industry influencers to talk about us, right? So how do we get there without spending big bucks? That's the question that I probably, in fact, I approached you for that question after seeing your designation on LinkedIn.
Right.
I want benefit to go to everyone here, right?
Yeah. So marketing is not cheap. Let me admit that in front of everybody. It's costly. But so if you look at it, engineering is something where you control the outcome, but marketing is something where you need to manage the external forces. And these external forces are quite competitive. So you can't control them. You can only make them aware about what you are doing and then let it take its own course. So if everything was available on Google, bots would be running the business, right? We don't need people to run business. But unfortunately, Google does not give all the answers. You cannot discover everything on Google. And that is why this entire ecosystem of media, influencer, and analyst exists. They are the one who toil hard to find out the information which is relevant, and they help cut the fluff and come to the point. And that's if you look at it, that might be one line, but that can be a strategic shift for your company that can make a big difference, right? So they are paid for that wisdom that they bring in, and that makes it definitely not cheap, but it's possible, right? There is an assumption that analyst, it's for big boys, it's not for everybody. But if you look at it, if you do your research, and if you find that right person who is interested in figuring out what is happening in the industry, you can really make a connection. Think of it like this. What is the value add of an analyst in this entire ecosystem? It is his knowledge. They don't gain knowledge when they talk to big companies, because those big companies are already using innovation to make money. It's a smaller companies that are bringing those new innovation coming alive, using invention to create innovation which can solve future problems. And that is where analysts learn that what are the things that are coming up. So when you reach out to somebody who is in the similar space and who can connect with your story, this can really click. But you need to really put focus and find out that person who will connect with your story.
So, I mean, do you have some story to tell? Like, how did you? I know you work with the big guys, big four, right? In terms of maybe Gartners and all. Like, how do you get there? I mean, of course, Infogain is a big company and it can actually afford. But how can a small company in the DTC can actually get there? How do you have any tricks? Do you have any stories that we can relate to?
Okay, a quick poll here. So the question is, do you need to pay Gartner for inquiries, or are these free?
You're asking me, or
anyone can respond.
Okay.
This is more like an assumption that these things are paid. Obviously, when you are looking for value extraction, you might have to look for payments. But for an inquiry with Gartner analyst, it comes for free. You don't even need to be their member. You don't need to take any subscription. You can schedule an inquiry with them, and they will come on call and discuss with you where the market is moving. So the first step is you need to take the step. You need to find the analyst or advisor you want to engage with, and then you need to take it from there.
Okay.
So it's accessible for all. Like I said, you are their knowledge source. They are looking to talk to you, know more about you, as long as you can get your first pitch right. That what is it that you are trying to solve, right? Obviously, Rome was not built in a day. It takes time. It takes great patience to figure out that person who has the similar research agenda as the problem that you're trying to solve. But my experience is that yes, people exist, and it's just that you need to find them. It's about you need to take a first step to discover right people who can help make your discovery easy.
Vinay, if I may ask a question to Prasant on the same lines.
Sure.
Like I said, one is that as a startup, we need to sort of approach the analyst, right, in this before. But what happens if actually Gartner has reached out to us? We have not reached out to them. So they want to talk about what does this mean as a signal? What does it say? I mean, and we are more or less a bootstrap today. We have not spent a single dollar on marketing. So I have the meeting tomorrow. So I'm just trying to understand the right time to get into this.
That's a good question, Kaushik.
Congratulations, so you're doing something path-breaking, something innovative, Kaushik. Like I said, these advisories also have their own divisions where they try to find out where the innovation is taking place. Probably they use their intelligence to figure out what you are doing and how it connects with the study that particular analyst would be doing, and that's how they reached out to you. It's great, I would say.
Okay, thanks.
No,
Cathy, you were saying something?
Sorry, yeah, Cathy.
No, thank you.
Yeah, sure. And so just kind of reiterating from Prasant, for the people on the call, within 15 minutes after this call ends, just Google Gartner analyst and then whatever your product area is. Okay. And then the profiles are there in the public domain. pick one person who seems that they focus on your area, and then keep that name in mind. Connect with, try to connect with that person on LinkedIn, follow that person, read their blogs, express interest in their area is a way to also, attract their attention. And so even just one Gartner analyst, that can be your ticket to actual exposure and increased awareness, which then ultimately, desirably would lead to publication of your company name in a cool vendor report or, in some other format, which is quite excellent. And of course, there are other smaller companies besides Gartner that are more open to interactions with smaller companies or with companies that are not like paying customers and so forth. And so that's another way to do it is, pick one Gartner analyst, but then pick one other analyst from a smaller company, maybe HFS, or IDC or one of these. So that's another way to do it on the cheap, is to identify analysts from the smaller companies. And again, just pick one. Don't overinvest your time, but yes, do that minimum, follow them, and try and ask them questions about market insights that are relevant, and also will give a chance for them to kind of become aware of you and how you play in that area.
Thank you, Cathy. I think maybe I can share one anecdote here. So Ivan Crystal, you guys might know if you're in the insight space, AI space. So he is one of the influencers, right? I was working for one company. They had a product in that insights and visualization space. We started connecting with him on Twitter. We started following his journey, what he's saying, and how we connect it back to our product before we really reach out to him and told him that, Ivan, see, this is something which we are doing, and we would like you to just go through what we are doing. And if you like it, we can make it work forward. And it worked out. So cold calling at times really worked. Think of it like a sales process, like Cathy mentioned. Find one analyst and follow him or her, and try to learn what they are looking for. And if it's a no, that's fine. You always have the second analyst. So the perseverance is the key here. That's what I'll say.
Yeah. Now that Kaushik has got an interview, right, with the top analyst, do you have some kind of a cheat list or something for him? How to deal with these guys, right? Like you told about, Cathy was talking about something like a tier 2 or a tier 3 analyst, right? Like, how do you deal? Do you have some kind of a cheat list for this?
Ask questions. Ask as many questions from them. First, know where they are coming from. First, know what they are looking for. You can always talk about your product subsequently, but it's important to know why they have reached out to you. What is it special that they have found? And that's how. Don't make it like a one meeting, cover it all. Make it like a series of interaction. That could really work in your favor. That's what my thing would be. But Cathy can add more here. Cathy, please.
Yes. And so when we interact with analysts, we always like to actually have an inquiry first, that it may be on a paid basis. And so if you're being approached with the analyst, then if they're asking you for a briefing, then even via email to say, in advance of the briefing, could you provide me any insights from your understanding of the market about what are the market trends and what are the areas, the gaps that you see in the marketplace. And that way, when you're making your briefing, then you can address the gaps that the analyst himself has identified. And then he also feels that he's part of your journey, which is really what, very beneficial for you if you take it that way. Also, in terms of the briefing, I would say analysts often are very focused on differentiation. And that's the reality of the competitive market that everybody on this call is in. Probably a lot of you have products where there are competing products already available. And so then that's where differentiation becomes key. And they will be they're very critical. They'll be very insightful about whether you actually have a differentiator, is it a true differentiator or not? And so that's worth spending a little more time on, thinking in the preparation process, and then also in the communication about how is it different and how can you validate that it's different. And then I would say the Gartner people also they also will be impacted by the professionalism of your PPT. So if you haven't already, use a marketing company to uplift your presentation. So that, it's a very prestigious thing to get a Gartner briefing. Spend a little money to uplift the way that you'll be communicating the value that you bring to the market with your product.
That's a good point. Actually, what's the value of this branded material that we prepare, right? Like whether it's a website today, if you see most of the DTC companies, many of them are quite mature and they're spending a lot on website, but some of them do not really spend on website, right? So what is it that, what's the value of that? Right? It could be a website, or it could be a presentation, or it could be, what do you guys think, Cathy or Prasant?
So Cathy, would you like to go first?
Okay. Well, so yes, it matters. Just assume it matters more than you think. And in fact, I'm in some ways like the people on this call, where I tend to focus more on the functionality and kind of implicitly think, well, if my product is really good, the people will come. But no, that's not the world that we live in. We live in a world where the way that it appears communicates the impression about the quality of the product. And so having a cool website implies that you're going to have a great product. And website trends change all the time. And so it's good to make your website a very high priority and to invest, get the best ideas from the creative perspective, and continually look at your competitors' websites and be better than what it is. And so these are worth it. In terms of the collateral, again, I'm more of a substance type person. And so I would take this time to mention content marketing is huge, and it's the cheap way to get going with your product marketing. First, have your message in place, but yes, then get some content marketing going. There's plenty of companies. You're so lucky you're located in India. So you have lots and lots of very inexpensive resources available if you will just use them. And then the whole purpose of the content is to attract the attention and explain the solution, and then somehow validate it. Give the give the purchaser some kind of excuse for why they're considering your product compared to others when they're talking to their organization about the purchase decision. So content marketing is in there really good as well from a tactic perspective. And yes, when we talk about the appearance or attractiveness in content, then what we're talking about is that it should be well written, and that the flow of the ideas within the content needs to be pretty clean. Shouldn't be helter-skelter or not really making sense within the content itself. But on the other hand, it can also be very simple content that we're finding at Infogain, that even very simplistic content, it actually plays really well. It gets more attention than our more complex content that we put out there. So yes, certainly it's worth investing. And even if it's not your thing, then get someone else to focus on that thing for you. Prasant, what ideas do you have on this?
Yeah, great points, Cathy. Thank you. So I would like to bring a different angle here. There is a 1992 movie, Sneakers, in which the Cosmos has a dialogue that I learned that everything in this world, including money, operates not on reality, but perception of reality. So you may have one of the world's best thing in your kitty, but if the perception is not built, it's probably not worth. And website is the first place. The moment you send anything to anyone, the first thing they do is click your LinkedIn, find who you are. Second thing they do is go to your website and see how it looks. When you go to talk to them, the first thing they do is how your cover page of presentation looks, how you're starting that. And these three things have created that perception even before you have spoken a single word. And now imagine if these three things have not gone well, how difficult it is going to be during the pitch to overcome that perception and make it right? You might have solid stories, solid product, but these things are important in a way. These are small little nuances which play definite role in building that perception.
So it's
Yes.
kind of answers Kaushik's question, right? Like the branding and awareness is what you'll have to spend first before spending on lead generation.
Certainly investing in the brand and knowing what exactly you want to say about your brand is important and valuable to do before you get out there with lead generation, so that you're solid with what you're trying to say, and that you're consistent in the way that you say it. So certainly that's there. And with a great website, the lead gen will almost come naturally. There's kind of an area that my team member, Mr. talks about, called growth hacking. And so that's a way to quickly find cheap ways to drive growth. And so if you just Google, growth hacking, you can learn more about those ideas, and use those to, make lead gen happen sooner rather than later, which of course is what everybody wants, or they think they want, assuming that their product is in place and they're able to actually handle those leads in a way that moves smoothly towards a closed won deal. And then I just wanted to also offer in terms of the sneaker story, great story, Prasant, and on terms of perception, another thing that is an area that maybe we don't take enough advantage of is this concept about emotions versus rational decision making. So even in B2B purchases, then what Ogilvy and Mather, the world's leading advertising agency, will tell you is that people buy on emotions. They buy on emotions first, and then they justify with the rationality. And so again, even though that's maybe not intuitive, then think emotions. What emotions are you trying to drive among your buyers? If you look at Infogain's website, you'll see move forward confidently. Okay, we want our customers to feel confident. And so try and think along that way when you also are putting together what are the key messages you want to get across about your product, and what perception do you want to drive with your customer base, with your prospect base.
Actually, there's one very good question from Shekhar here. What he's saying is it okay to be agile? When you are getting your messaging right initially, we don't know what works in the market. So is it okay to be changing? Will it give a negative impression? Or how often do you change your messaging?
I recommend an annual update is kind of the way I would think about it. And so it's an exercise that you can do. And yes, companies of all sizes are constantly evaluating and tweaking. Of course, you have lots of other priorities. So, put it also in its right place. But yes, I would say if you do a positioning and messaging little exercise where you look at it again, and that you've done the market research about what's happening in your marketplace, you've evaluated or created or updated a chart that has parameters on which you are comparing yourself to your competitors, and then think through what that might mean in terms of changes to your messaging, then yes, it's worth doing. And don't worry about it if you are doing it more frequently than not. If you have new insights that are coming, for example, from market research or from sensing the market, you can do, you can use market research companies, or you can even do testing on your website. Use the optimizer, it's free to do website testing. You can do pop-up surveys to understand. You can have questions like what's most important to you when you are considering the purchase of a XXX type software. Or even competitors, what products are you aware of that provide this type of functionality, and then understanding why they prefer one versus another. If that's giving you insights that you want to use to update your messaging, go ahead. And again, like I say, I've seen a lot of companies do an annual exercise on this, and then because you also obviously want to dedicate some time to the actual use of the messaging to, grind out lots of content, generate lots of awareness, and build a lot of enthusiasm for your product in the marketplace.
Yeah, now that you're on messaging, right? Kaushik has another question. Basically, they sell security and insurance related products. Now, should the emotions be evoked a negative or positive? What works, right? Kaushik, am I saying the right thing?
Yes. I would say, so you want to show the grim view of the world and then say, okay, that's why you need to do it, or you want to show what the world could be, the possibilities, right? So you want to show the reality, or take them to heaven and show how beautiful it is, and sell. Which messaging works better? Maybe is it dependent also on geographies or countries or cultures and stuff like that?
Now, before Cathy or Prasant answers this, right, I'm sure there will be many such questions from all the DTC guys, right? So those of you who want a mentorship with Prasant or Cathy or both, right, please do send an email to Dr. Sunil Shekhawat, and he'll coordinate. He has their contacts, and he'll coordinate a session with you, with Cathy or Prasant or both. Yeah, Cathy, yeah, please.
Okay, yes. So just what came to mind during your question, Kaushik, was a recent finding, a research finding in the area of psychology. Was actually research done on younger people, but I think it applies across the spectrum as well. And that is to say that if you are talking with a younger person, a quite young person, and you say, "Don't run," then they don't actually hear the don't part. They don't understand don't. And so they only get the run part. And so, from that angle, I really kind of recommend don't use don't, and so in terms of pointing out the negative, well, so I understand security products prevent negative things, but also we don't ever want to be in a situation where we're assigning blame to the customer. So you don't want to say something like, well, your company fell apart because you didn't use the right cyber software, or if you do, then you want to find some way to transfer the blame that, of course, you couldn't do it. There was something beyond your control that made it so that, the company software didn't behave in the way that was supposed to. So avoiding blaming your customer for anything negative is important, and generally avoiding things that have don't in it. Instead, being positive in your use of verbs and what it is that your product will do is, those are a couple of tips.
So Cathy, taking a lead on the psychology research that you mentioned, you said this is for the younger generation, right? Yes. The research of using the don't word is for the younger generation. Mm-hmm. But if you're a B2B company, say selling to a B2B company, it mm-hmm. means that usually you have people, say 35 plus, manning the positions who can write a check, right? So for them, will don't work?
Personally, I apply that rule across the age spectrum. I in my interactions, even with my team members and the communications that I put out about our company's services, in the way that I'm trying to hire candidates, bring candidates on to consider jobs at Infogain, and all of these, then I use I reframe it in a way so it's a positive verb and not a negative verb, and not necessarily painting negative scenarios, but instead painting benefits associated with positive scenarios.
Okay. Thanks.
But also you can also have a look at what your competitors do. Look at what the other competitors do and see, is it universally done? If it is, this actually could be a certain positioning that you take that's unique to you, that you are focusing on the positive. And so looking at what the competitors do doesn't hurt to borrow from competitors. Often competitors are one step ahead of you. There may be things that you want to use conceptually from what you see about what they're doing.
So this is where I'll put a small rider, right? And this is because we are talking to people who come from tech background, and tech gives you a feeling of invincibility that I can handle everything. If you are dealing with these kind of things, my suggestion, and probably Cathy will agree with me, is to involve somebody who understands the nuances of these things and take his or her advice about how to go forward. Because these are not binary yes and no questions. These involve a lot of subjectivity in it. Every layer has its own details. So that's what my addition would be here.
So basically get associated with the marketing advisor, right? Probably, and to take some strategic decisions on either marketing or in general for the value communication, right?
And if after doing that, if you feel that whatever you were thinking was right, it's not money wasted, it's money well utilized, because you could validate your thinking with somebody who is expert in that space. Yeah.
And Kaushik, for you, you're going to interact with a Gartner analyst. That's a perfect question to ask the Gartner analyst about. Ask him and let us know. We're curious about what he says too.
Sure, I'll let you know that. Thanks.
Yeah, I mean, there's another question before like Sridhar has a question in the sense that how important is it to punch above our weight? You know, like do we fake it initially, and then there's a very thin differentiation between a liar and a visionary, right? Both are talking about something that is still not there, right? And so techies normally have this habit of telling what it is, right? Not really, and they're very, very, very cautious about promising what they still don't have. So how important is this punching above the weight? I don't know whether I got this correctly, Sridhar, but yeah, let's see what Prasant has to offer on this.
Well, my experience in marketing side is that you can stretch the truth, but you cannot manufacture the truth. So if it is not there, it's probably not advisable to say it is. But if it is there in small form, it's okay to stretch and show a part of your vision that this is how it's going to shape up in next 6 months or 9 months. That is still okay because you can defend. But if it is not there, and if you have read something somewhere and you're trying to create a vertical out of that overnight, it will not work. The person is going to find out very soon. So it depends on the audience you're talking to. And most likely, I'm assuming that those are seasoned professionals who deal with that particular space. And if you're trying to fake it, it probably may not serve the purpose.
To that, Prasant, if you see, Tesla was selling cars even before it built one, right? So
there is Elon Musk and there is everybody else.
Okay. Okay.
Cathy, you were saying something?
Well, so I certainly agree with avoiding complete misstatements. You know, be aware that anything you put on your website, the client can ask you about that. And so be ready to have an answer for anything that you put there. And particularly if you have kind of international or US-based crowds, the audience in the US takes things very literally, and they're pretty sensitive about that whole stretching versus not. For the US audiences, it's a lot more important to have the story written nicely, you know, to present it in a way that is modern, and that the benefits are really clear, and that, you know, it feels like you're on a journey with like really hip people. And that doesn't necessarily take, that's just wordsmithing, right? That doesn't take any exaggeration of any functionality or anything like that. But certainly to the extent that you have quantified benefits, use those. And so if you can say that you save customers 30% in their marketing function because of the software that they use, some kind of quantified benefit should display prominently. And it doesn't necessarily have to be exaggerated. You know, just getting out there even with any kind of quantified benefit is a starting point. and be true to who you are. That would be my perspective.
And to your point, Vinay, that engineers are more conservative in nature. So maybe you want to talk about the vision that you have for immediate term, 3 months, 6 months. That's absolutely fine. And the person on the other side of the table really understands that, yes, you're building something in engineering, which is going to take time. And as long as you have vision, people are very accommodative. That's what I've seen in my experience in marketing and sales. People really give you credit for your vision. Even if you don't have it, you can have it. That's good enough. So you don't have to say that, yes, I have it, and then fall flat on your face that you don't have. It's better to say that I'm making it and it'll work like that.
Yeah, I mean, so many a times we actually also hear about startups partnering with larger companies, like the larger SIs in India, right? The large companies in India, right? Like, does it benefit? In what way does it benefit? And from a marketing perspective, how do you think it has an impact? What is your take basically? Because I've seen Infogain doing strategic investments as well as acquisitions in tech startups, right? So how does it work? I mean, if you can talk about it. Cathy?
Okay, sure. And so partnerships are the big things today. And actually partnerships and platforms are ways that enable small companies to become successful rapidly in a marketplace. It's really lowered the barriers to entry in so many marketplaces. And so I definitely recommend that you consider, evaluate, and identify partnerships that will help you grow. And they can help you from both maybe a business perspective, but also from a mentorship perspective. Partners, we found at Infogain that partners and the companies we acquire, they impact our own thinking. They impact the technology approaches that we look at. They impact the way we think about solving problems for our own customers. So having partners is a way to bring fresh ideas into your own company, and definitely recommend it. And then also this concept of platforms. That would be to say that you're all making software products here. How many people on the call allow others to develop on top of your product? Are you doing that now? If not, that's something you should think about, because that's the whole platform premise. And that's the way companies are becoming really, really successful.
And what stage do you suggest DTC companies to look at kind of partnership? I mean, as a go-to-market partnership, or should they really get a scale before they approach the larger size?
Well, I think, it's probably situation dependent, but I think sooner rather than later. The benefits accrue as soon as you start. And so even small companies should think about it. The entry costs for partnerships tend to be extremely low. And so why not? If it's something that benefits you, then go for it.
What can go wrong in such a thing? I mean, we heard the good thing, but what do you, in your experience, what can actually go wrong, and what should companies be aware of?
Well, I suppose, and this is common for people who are like type D and the disk extended profile, some may worry that you'll be taken advantage of, that somehow the partner is going to leverage some of the IP or some of your own ideas, or somehow take your customers, take the interactions that you're having and then grab them for their own customers. So these are things that I have heard to be, concerns anyway. And in my own experience, I would say the benefits outweigh the risks of these things. Of course, I know everybody on this call is extremely protective about your IP, so you have to make that decision on your own. And then otherwise, in terms of downsides of partnerships, I would say that the investment of time, did it pay off in terms of the results that you were looking for? And so that can be something where you find yourself doing some trial and error, and that some partners are good to work with, and others end up not giving you as much as you would have hoped, given how much time you invested in the interactions with the partner.
Okay, I mean, what kind of companies would Infogain be interested in partnering? If I have to ask that question.
Well, our partners, we partner with very large companies like, Microsoft and AWS. I mean, as a company, Infogain is very cloud focused.
No, from the smaller partners,
Okay.
like for example, as a tech startup, in what kind
All
of
right.
yeah.
Yeah, and so if you go to Infogain's website and look at our services, those 8 service categories, and if someone on the call has, okay, and someone, okay, I guess someone did something with recording. So yes, so we do work with small companies, small software companies that accelerate our own offerings. And so, for example, AppVance is a company that has AI software in the testing space. And so, yes, we partner with AppVance and they improve our offering to our own clients. And we have very large clients and, more clients than, it helps AppVance gain access to what otherwise may be clients that are in a league above them or beyond what they currently can achieve through their own like individual lead gen activities. So yes, products that enhance our own offerings to our customers is an area, particularly in the software engineering side. If there is anyone here that has that, the testing side is an area where we've seen it in multiple times using partners. And so those are some of the areas that we could think about it. If there's anyone who's doing like infrastructure related AI, that could be something. Koshik cybersecurity software is something where we can at least look at it. And so we would look for areas, we'd look for partners who enhance our own offerings in a way that's pretty adjacent to what we ourselves are selling in the marketplace.
Thanks, Prasant and Cathy. I guess we don't have, we are almost there. It's towards the end, and if I don't have any other questions from the audience, hey, feel free. Anyone else who would want to have a question to either Cathy or Prasant?
So while we wait for question, I like to go back to that partnership thing. Like Cathy mentioned, that there is sometimes concern, but the benefits outweigh. So think of it this way. Cathy started off with the Cisco example, right? Cisco acquired Babel Labs to enhance their WebEx product. And believe me, there would be many Babel Labs that were working across the globe, solving the same problem. And how many of them will really find a good partner like that? And once that solution is integrated, what are the remaining ones going to do? So there is a good way to explore these partnerships while you are developing your story and your product, and timing is very crucial. So don't be afraid of getting an idea taken away. The cost of having an idea taken away is high, but the cost of building an idea that is already built by somebody else is even higher. So be cautious about that part.
So to take on that, Prashant, to add on to that, so it would be kind of logical to say, because we are sort of always thinking binary, right? So it is logical to say that if I were to spend $1 on, say, sales to a customer or selling to a partner, the partner probably is more futuristic and probably will multiply more than the customer, right?
Well, that would be subjective to which stage you are on in your journey, in your product building journey. If your product is mature and sales is going to convert today, invest in sales. There is no two ways about it. But if you're looking for something which is going to solve a problem 6 months, 12 months down the lane, maybe explore your options in a more deeper manner.
But isn't the partner meant to, because the partner already say, and of course, be more established players, and it doesn't matter if they're established or not, but essentially they are also speaking to 100 people. So I can speak to 100 and they can speak to 100. So there is a multiplication effect there, right? As against me trying to sell to every. So I'm just thinking, we are kind of exploring that, we are discussing to folks. So we are also sort of moving to a platform kind of product base instead of trying to solve each and every problem individually, customizations and solutions. So in that, partner would sort of be more of a multiplying effect for us, right? And help us sell across the globe instead of just us trying to spend the same dollars trying to sell to individuals, right? Or basically individual businesses.
You said it, the multiplier effect. The equation should be 2 + 2 should be more than 4 in partnership. It should never be like you're not making that benefit coming out. And as long as that happens, it's good to explore. You have a question from
Thanks.
Michelle?
Right. So what she's asking about, when do we invest on marketing automation tools? Like if the number of prospect list is too less, does it make sense to invest in these kind of tools? Like Pardot.
Yeah, hi, Anshul, and thanks for that question. And so, so I regret not starting sooner at Infogain. I think if you think about your small prospect list that can be manually taken care of, well, are you sure that you're going to be able to maintain regular, sustained communications with that base? Engagement is not a one-time thing. Lead gen is not a one-time thing, especially in the B2B marketplace. It takes months and months of interactions to drive people through the funnel to get them comfortable with first even being aware of you, being interested in you, having some kind of desire to take action on you, and so forth. So, so are you really able to keep track of that list and then send out communications on a regular basis? If not, then that's what these marketing automation platforms are for. And there's some, that are very inexpensive and allow you to plan for and ensure engagement on an ongoing basis, and then also automatically add new people to the engagement program. So, I mean, it's a way to ensure sustained communications, which otherwise could drop off because your priorities are so mixed, and it's just hard to stay on top of sending out communications to which people at which times without it. And then also on the social media side, things like Hootsuite, it allows you to get things out across multiple platforms, a lot easier than working on the individual platform. So, so I do think that that's also, that I personally have found that to be a good early tool to use in terms of marketing tech.
Yeah, and to your point about lists being small, think of it. A list is easy to build, right? You don't need to be limited by the list that you have. There is so much business out there. You can easily figure out, you can build a broader list and then take it from there. And not necessarily Pardot. There are very simple tools available. So it's like, even if you have a smaller list, you send an email, you would like to follow up after 14, 15 days, right? But in normal course of action, you may not remember. But these are the tools that will flag and that will tell you that, okay, you sent this email, would you like to follow up? So that could be a starting point, but investing in MarTech is important upfront. It will help you in a longer way. If not Pardot, there are others.
Yeah, thank you, Cathy. Thank you, Prasant, for a very insightful session. And thanks, Kaushik, Sridhar, and all Anchal for participating in the discussion. Yeah, as I mentioned earlier, if you want a session with either Prasant or Cathy, please reach out to Dr. Sunil Shekhawat of NASCOM, and he'll coordinate a session with you and with the marketing champs that we have here. Thanks, Prasant. Thanks, Cathy. Have a good day, Cathy.
Okay.
Thank you, Vinay.
Thank you, Vinay. Nice to meet everyone. Have a great day.
Same here. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, Prasant.
Thank you, Cathy.
Thank you.